Alrighty, boys. Let's just cut to the chase. I have the best version of Forbidden Rite CoC out of pretty much everyone in the game right now. I don't believe we have any competition. I'm going to go over what we could have if we bothered to use gimmicks like they do, while we have good defenses and offenses, just optimize gearing slots. This thing's going to be pretty poorly edited, split up into sections. I'm going to cut up my speech whenever I don't feel confident with it. I've only got a couple of hours to get a majority of this done, and we are definitely rushing this. Reason why we're rushing this is this version of the build is only available during basically Recombinator League. Not really Sentinel League, it's Recombinator League. Everything else is boring. So, first thing you'll notice is that we have 77 mil. If I use the same gimmicks as everyone else, as in Culling Strike to make my damage higher, and we use the Purifying Flame, which we can do, you could literally do this in-game right now with my character. I don't see the need to do it, but basically let's just add Culling Strike to the build so you guys can, by comparison, work out how far ahead I am of the competition. You add Culling Strike, we're at 86 mil. I go to where my Portal Gem is, I would knock out my Portal Gem, and then I would put, what's the name of that thing again? Purifying Flame. Can't spell it, it's all good. Purifying Flame, somewhere here. There it is, right? Then we get to, what is it? Phantasmal? Nope. Yeah. We add this thing, right? It's possible for us to reach 88 mil. Seems, 90 mil. We could reach 90 mil damage if we really wanted to, using the same gimmicks as everyone else. I don't feel the need to do that at all, right? So we're just never going to worry about that. 77 mil, we beat the competition, and then some. Even if I was to turn off my Dying Sun, I have more damage than some people with their Dying Sun, with their Bottled Faith. Unnecessary, right? So we are really, really far ahead of our competition as far as these layers go. And also, we're not exactly short on defense. Now, some of you would see this and go, I've seen guys with the same on POB. Those guys even have their guard skills up. Right now, I have mine unclicked. Where is it? I have mine unclicked. So we actually have like 200k physical damage mitigation, like 100. Beside the point, right? You guys understand. I don't like to fluff my POBs. The lower it goes, the better, right? Even if I turned off all my stuff, I'm still basically ahead of the competition. That's how crazy this is. So basically, what it comes down to is scaling. Before we talk about the scaling, though, I do want to quickly mention the fact that what you are seeing in the videos earlier on, basically, is what my current damage is. We are actually missing two important items that would actually bring us up to that. So what you're seeing there is about 15 mil shy of what we can actually get to, which is kind of crazy, right? So basically, right now, I'm in the process of crafting this helmet and a double power charge ring. Probably not going to get this thing done. It doesn't need to have these crazy stats on it or whatever. This is just what I would like to go for. I have the power charge base, but I can't get the suffixes right now. It's annoying to craft. And I'm still working on the helmet. I haven't been lucky enough. We're missing endurance charges off the build, although we have the frenzy charges. We have the Ami. We have the fractured delve ring. We have the Val Regalia. We have the Imperial Skein. I don't quite have this exact Aegis Aurora. We got similar to that. Obviously don't have the Watcher's Eye, and everything else we're basically just working on side by side. But yeah, most of the stuff we've got so close to it's not funny, right? So if you want to know what the damage difference is, basically, we would swap back to a Crown of the Inward Eye. We swap our Flask back to a Quartz Flask, because obviously I wouldn't have my Spell Suppression cap. Quartz Flask, right? Because we want Spell Suppression over anything else. And then we swap our double power charge ring for a onslaught ring, because then we need our onslaught back, right? Then we just click onslaught on, because the game doesn't know we have onslaught. It's 63 mil versus 77. So this thing would net us about 10, 12 mil damage in the long run. And that's basically the difference between what you're seeing in the video versus what we actually have. Alrighty, with that out of the way, let's discuss why we have so much more damage and defense at the same time than everyone else. Basically, it just comes down to understanding our scaling. So what a lot of other people are doing is they're power charge stacking and potentially not understanding how important power charges are if that's where all your damage is coming from. Every single one of these basically is worth nearly 4 to 5 mil. You know what I mean? So each one of these is adding nearly 10% damage. This is obviously because each one is worth 3% here and 4% on the gem. The gem, which you should have if you are doing any form of power charge stacking over like 7 or 8 or anything along those lines. Obviously, one of your best in slot gems will be power charge on crit, because for each power charge you get, it's another 4%. That's 7%. Plus, obviously, then you grab this little wheel here. It makes power charge stacking extremely efficient. Also, you're going to get your crit from it. You're going to get multi from it. Obviously, just insanely good. It's not even really that much about the increased critical strike chance, although that obviously is a part of it, but basically the TLDR is each one of these is worth more damage, and more damage is hard to come by. Okay, so second part, they don't really understand diminishing returns. Okay, so I see a lot of people, using increased critical strikes and obviously increased chaos damage, or sorry, added chaos damage, and you get like a plus level, and people are like, oh, it's more consistent, this, that, the other. This is basically untrue. The gem already has insane amounts of flat if you are scaling up your ES. Forbidden Rite, if you read the gem, if it'll let me, basically just has it that basically 5% of your maximum energy shield is base chaos, and the gem actually has quite a lot of flat to begin with. We're already scaling with plus levels and ridiculous amounts of ES. We already have a lot of flat, an insane amount of flat. So continuing down the path of trying to get more flat damage on the build will net you less. If you actually look through your build and what you're starved on, right, you got to remember, Forbidden Rite or Chaos skills in general don't have a lot of either increased, right? So obviously when we're talking about Chaos Dot, there's a lot of multi and stuff you can get, but there's not a lot of more damage multipliers, there's not a lot of generic ways to scale it, and there's not a lot of pen, right? So obviously we've got like minus res and stuff like that, we got a more damage multiplier here, but if we look through it, right, a lot of our gem choices are fairly weak and they want us to scale flat because we don't have a lot of options. We're not really scaling the cast speed because we're cast on crit, right? And then we've got like what, minus 20 here. Wither is obviously just a more damage or a multiplier done after the fact because usually your damage is quite weak. But essentially it's like, well, okay, we can only really scale it with plus levels, and these nodes are good. These nodes are basically, we're not scaling skill effect duration. Increased is really, rare, but like these are unoptimized links. Like each one of these is worth chaos damage multi, doesn't do anything for a thingo. So grabbing this one here would be a waste of our points. That pretty much just leaves generic spell damage. If we look at increased spell damage on our tree, there's not a lot of it. And when you consider how much power charges give us, you'll never make up the difference, essentially. Right? We're a power charge stacker. We want to stack power charges. So that basically means that we're always going from here to here. So basically what happens here when we spread out our tree like this, not a lot of room left over, not a lot of increased chaos damage on the tree. That's why we use cluster jewels. Pretty much the only spell damage nodes we have are like these ones here that are effective. And yet again, probably just wouldn't grab these unless we were desperate. And if you look at this one's the only one with anything decent on it. These are worth like 8 a pop and some spell block, which is good, but ultimately you can grab that at the same time and still achieve spell block through other methods. Get you more ES is more flat. Basically, these are just more optimized than anything else. So what that's going to lead you to is, you'll notice a lot of us use a very, very similar tree. So we're spread out thin because we have to grab the power charges. We obviously want the same layers because obviously it's like, we're using an Aegis Aurora, but most busted defense in the game. And then we obviously want to fit in as many auras as possible to scale our damage. And yet again, we only have limited auras that actually scale our damage as well. So for all this, you'll always end up with a similar tree. A couple of differences I made is getting rid of the ashes, getting slightly more reserve, and fitting in better auras to match what the league is putting in front of us. So the first thing is, you'll notice it's different from my tree and everyone else's, is one, when you get your stats properly, so here's a huge thing, right? Everyone is starved for strength and dex. And obviously that's just because we basically just take int along the tree, and there's very few options to optimize here. And we do need a lot of strength and dex. We actually need as much as we can get our hands on. And we have quite a bit. And obviously we're trying to scale int because we have ES, and that's flat damage. Yet again, we're overdone on flat. And then it's basically just crit multi as your other options. You shouldn't be struggling with crit, so you should never need to take these nodes. Okay? You never need to take these nodes. You should always take the power charge nodes. And obviously we just have some quality of life. We just want some generic ES. So if you've ever got your strength, I've seen this mistake on nearly like 50 POBs, man. Once you've got, right, your strength requirement taken care of, people still keep this. I would drop these 2 points immediately because they're less effective and start grabbing these two. Because if you can ever get the third is worth more than like 2 of these. I'm not even joking, man. So like, if you've already got your strength cap and you realize you have a spare point free and like you've taken this, drop this point here, drop this point here and here, and grab these 3, and you end up with more ES. I could pretty much just show you that in game right now. So we were like 9,800. We grab this, and we grab this, and we're at 9,600. Right? You take away these 2, and you lose nothing because you don't need the strength, and you just grab this 3. You'd be surprised the amount of people that are going to miss this on the tree, but whatever. Okay, so I don't want to talk about this too long, but the long story short is we have optimized the cluster setups to fit in our weakness. So your weakness is that you're short on strength, right? These things are ridiculously good at flat ES, which is obviously scaling our damage. Attributes, int is basically more ES. Reserve, which helps us get rid of Ashes of the Star, and we get more reserve, and this will fit in our proper auras, right? And all attributes. So this helps with the dex issue. This helps with the strength issue. This is all you need. So when you optimize for a strength int, right, and flat ES, these are like 60 flat. That's almost better than some items, legit. And the reserve. So this solves your attribute issues in a very, very efficient manner, whilst giving you ES, which is basically giving you damage. So you're able to easily achieve this better than if you go on Ashes of the Star. You drop Ashes of the Star, right? You will only go up insane amounts of damage. Look at this, right? I go Ashes of the Star to get some extra reserve. I go down to 61 damage. 61 mil for Ashes of the Star. And people talk about, oh, it's really hard to beat for the alternate quality. The alternate quality does nothing. Look at the difference in these ammies. Look at the difference. 61 mil, right? Versus 77. And I still fit in all my auras, and it fixes up all my attribute issues. Ashes of the Star is garbage in the endgame. It is a good budget option. Not even really budget option because it's fucking super expensive, but you will try and get rid of that thing ASAP. Okay? Because obviously +2 levels, power charge scaling, non-effective curse, and crit multi is completely insane. Frenzy charge for yet again more damage. Basically, and yeah, it's insane, right? You get the point here. I will talk about where to get that ammy from. I recommend just mirroring it off my mate. I think it cost like, I want to say it costed 650x to make. Doesn't matter. I would say I'll give a shout out to, I'm borrowing it right now. I'll give a shout out to Fennel in a little bit and let you guys know about the existence of this ammy. But basically, the TLDR, Ashes is for beginners, man. Ashes is for beginners. So basically, yeah, more effective use of my tree. So you need attributes, you're always short on them, you don't want to grab them on gear, those affixes are more precious to us in other ways, okay? So basically this is just optimized scaling, and we're going to go through each piece of gear in a little bit, and I'll explain, you know, what we saved. So everything from our attribute requirement issues, to extra ES, to extra damage. We've got flat, we lack increased and more. We get our more from power charge stacking, and from just generic charges, right? And obviously our gem choices. And then we get, you know, our attack speed requirements, our extra crit that we can use, and our attribute problems all solved on the tree. That frees up gear. We only have, I think, one set of attributes in the whole thing, and that's because it has a ridiculously easy crafting process. Not cheap, but easy. Alright, this is another thing I was just talking about with the gems that I want to very, very quickly touch on. Basically, TLDR is that this is basically Sniper's Mark versus Assassin's Mark. Which one is better? And I'll tell you right now, obviously you would want Sniper's Mark if you're going for number 1 on PoE Ninja. In the actual game, it doesn't really work out better, but it will look like it at the start if you just don't mind fluffing the numbers. So obviously, a lot of people would just straight up swap Assassin's Mark, right? You get rid of your Assassin's Mark, you'll notice you're not crit capped anymore, but then you'll put the Sniper's Mark on, and you still get really good damage, and then people are like, oh, that's okay. What I'll do is I'll just swap, because you're no longer crit capped, right? A lot of people want to just basically make the swap to increase critical strikes. When you do this, right, you're losing a more damage multiplier here. So the curse is like, it looks better on paper. Pay very careful attention to the whole process here. So then we make the swap, right, and we go increase critical strikes. You realize you've lost like 20 mil damage if you've got any form of decent build to keep the crit and to keep the Sniper's Mark going. Obviously, this is not optimal. So what people will do, right, is they'll go back to increased critical damage, which even when you've got inconsistent crit is way more damage. So this is the important part. If you see increased critical strikes, you are losing so much damage. You can have increased critical damage on inconsistent crit. It is still better. So this will be a PoE Ninja thing, right? But that's because you're losing, right, your crit cap. A lot of people will swap out to Bottled Faith to fix their crit cap, right? Even though it doesn't really do a good job of it. And then they'll just swap out, rather than lose increased critical strikes, because they, obviously it's like, oh dude, I'm losing Dying Sun, why would I do that? They'll take this away and they'll add Volley, right? And then you still actually net worse damage. That's the whole swap in front of you. Volley, increased critical strikes are bait gems. You know what I mean? They basically, like, they make you feel like you're getting more damage when you've got like a what do you call it? A low inconsistent build, but you actually still have the same problem. When your Bottled Faith is down, your crit is still garbage and inconsistent. Even when you get it at 100, by the way, even when you get it at 100, it nets you a loss overall. So basically, increased critical strikes is not optimized. Volley is not optimized, right? The bottled faith is still worse than the dying sun because you don't even get the AoE from it. There's too many problems, right? TLDR is that sniper's mark is just for PoE ninja and basically just barely scraping by. In game, you're gonna fuck up your crit. Your flask isn't always up. Neither's the dying sun, just for reference. But people feel a little bit better about the flask being down. But overall, right, sniper's mark is garbage. Increased critical strikes is garbage. You can achieve way better with assassin's mark and increased critical damage. These are your optimized links. When you see the other one, play around with it. Maybe it looks better on some other people's POB, but every time I check it, it has netted me a massive loss. It's the wrong way to scale it. Alrighty, the next thing I want to talk about that I've seen in a bunch of POBs is obviously the flask. Now, this is a bit of a controversial sort of topic here, but essentially, I'm going to tell you which ones give you the most bang for buck and why they are going to optimize the build. Okay, so obviously, Granite with Armadillo, right? Should always be on the one flask if you can, but essentially, this gives you all your armor. We are an armor scaler. We've got global defenses. This is not the highest armor you'll see in the game, but that's okay. We still got some of the highest fizz. We're using one endurance charge. I mean, while you're mapping, if you do get a good one, you can get endurance charge on kill as well. Doesn't matter. Point is, we're not exactly short on physical damage mitigation. We literally tank shaper slams. It's fine. We have too much EHP. Very, very optimized, but the TLDR is that you basically always are going to want this. I've seen the swap out made to basically just get like regular, they have like higher armor and they swap these for elemental ones. That is unoptimized, right? Because obviously one of the best sources of armor is these flask, right? So if you have any default amount, using this flask is actually like super on top of that. Basically just more effective. I probably butchered that so bad. But anyway, the other one is the diamond flask. Now, a lot of people, yet again, are opting to use a bottled faith or to skip charges. So like sometimes they're using Assassin's Mark and they're not really reaching their crit cap naturally. This flask is like, I swear to God, from memory, it's like nearly 250 it's worth or something like that. So you would just divide 250 increased crit by about 40 per charge. Now it's 30 and then I think it's like 8 per thingo. But the TLDR is that this flask right here saves you 6 power charges worth of crit. If I was to lose 6 power charges off my build, I'd go from 11, let's say, down to... If I was to lose 6 power charges, I would not be crit capped. Even with Assassin's Mark. I did fuck that up. It's fine. But, obviously, we don't want to do that. None of us could afford to do that. Assassin's Mark is obviously the optimal choice. And basically a diamond flask saves you like an unfathomable amount of crit. It doesn't look as bad on mine. I'm well and truly over my crit cap and then some, okay? So it's very much worth mentioning that for most of you guys that only have like 7 or 8 power charges, you would be down to 2. If you had 2 power charges, yeah, you'd be pretty far off the mark even with Assassin's Mark again, right? Like, can't afford to ditch that unless you want to swap back to increased critical strikes, and that is a mistake because you will be giving up, 30 to 40% more damage or something crazy like that. Damn near 40% more damage for 20% on increased critical strikes just to fix a fuck up that you can completely avoid in an effective manner, okay? So, doesn't matter how you feel about it, a diamond flask is better than a topaz or anything else, right? Obviously, you'll notice by now, Forbidden Rite is one of the slower cast on crit builds out there. You don't have a choice here. You're always going to need reduced mana cost. It's, pivotal that you solve all the mana issues on these builds. You will be using reduced mana cost and increased Quicksilver. This is the easiest one to throw away because it's also your last and only increased effect one, because in the end game you're going to want a Silver Flask. Silver Flask does not get any increased onslaught effect or anything like that from the increased effect. That's okay. It's basically just for all elemental res on this. There's pretty much nothing else you can put here. Silver Flask can't roll increased effect, so unfortunately you'd be lacking a little bit of all res here. It's okay, we're well and truly over our all res cap. TLDR is, this is your optimized thing, because you're low on movement speed and you want to get a bunch of attack speed, because getting attack speed is quite hard to do if you want to do it properly. You are going to basically end up with the same flask setup, and then obviously a Dying Sun is more efficient because we only want temporary. And then eventually you'll keep it up with precision. This is something I'll go into maybe a little bit later. TLDR is, I'm not even worried about my flask not being up yet. Again, we've got so much damage that when this flask is down, I'm not crying poor. You know what I mean? And then eventually I'll optimize to always have my flask up on standard, and also when the prices go down and hopefully no one's looking. So when I have a legacy flask, I will actually be able to maintain my Dying Sun at all times. Maybe not at all times, but a lot better than what it currently is. I'm not even worried about that. We don't need that. That's basically just fluff and bullshit for standard. So obviously, I see a lot of people using the bismuth and stuff like that, and I believe that that is a mistake, obviously, because if your res are that bad, you obviously didn't optimize too well on the tree. I know we're trying to make up for melding and stuff like that, and I've also seen people swap these out for the topaz and the other one. But basically, if you're swapping for the elemental ones to try and get more elemental damage, that's more effective against degen, and degen is a weakness for this build. That being said, we don't get a lot of regen. Most people don't. Can't even fit the affixes in yet again without giving up the armor. When you see the swap, you'll notice that you end up with potentially more armor, but worse everything else. And then when you make the swap to this, right, you got to remember you have 3 elements to cover. You have to cover the lightning, the cold, and the what's the other one? Fire, whatever. So you have to cover 3 elements, right? And that's 3 big flash you're going to lose. You're obviously going to want Quicksilver because a slow build is a dead build. That means you have to give up the granite and the diamond at a minimum, and obviously the silver, which just means that when you ditch the silver, you have to use an onslaught ring. And yet again, we're trying to do power charge stacking. Every power charge is worth potentially 5 mil or more damage. You've lost 10 mil trying to make this swap for inactive damage, and Silver Flask is always on versus Onslaught Ring, which is only on for 4 seconds when I hit an enemy. You'll see that in the end, when you actually optimize for this, it is a bad trade-off no matter what you do. And then you'll unoptimize your tree to try and get extra armor. It ends up being worse overall. This should be very, very apparent in the fact that I have more damage, more defenses than people that actually optimize for that. Which brings me to my next point, spell suppression. Spell suppression is literally just 4 suffixes, right? 4 suffixes for 50% reduced damage from spells. Now, it does have a map mod weakness, which Flask currently do not. But I will say right now, it's 50% versus what? I think 30 something, like basically 40%. So they take 40% less damage and it works on degen. We take 50 and it only works on hits. That being said, I get four suffixes very, very like efficiently taken up, and then I get 3 better flask immediately that accounts for 6 power charges worth of crit, which yet again saves me more in the long run. It also means that when I optimize later down the track, this Silver Flask is just obviously extra attack speed, which saves me more in the gearing process again. So the TLDR here is that we've done all the math on all the different setups here, and this one ends up optimized. I would not go the other way. I would not go backwards, right? This is more bang for your buck for getting armor. This is more bang for your buck for getting crit, almost like impossible to beat. This is obviously not the most bang for your buck for movement speed. However, the fact that I've freed up a flask slot means I get silver, which basically means I get the adrenaline roll anyway. So it ends up being just as good, and then it eases the pressure on my attack speed necessities, right? So basically, the TLDR, this is a better setup overall. Use this, and then you get Spell Suppression, which in my opinion is a better layer. You've seen how tanky we are on bosses. Spell Suppression is best in slot, and yet again, we can only do it this league. I urge you guys to try and make some of this gear while you can. It's not even that hard to get some of it. Obviously, like, we self-crafted everything. I am struggling on the helm right now, but I've been incredibly unlucky. But that's okay. Like, I'm still Spell Suppression capped without it. Alright, we're going to very quickly just scroll down the list, and I'll explain the reasoning behind every single choice. So, first thing we're going to start with is my Imperial Skein. Now, obviously, if you have a synthesized base with 10% more damage, we could yet again get more damage on the build. Insane. We don't need it. I'm okay with this. Also, I couldn't work out how to bloody craft it. I was struggling with it. And the thing is, right, this is very much worth mentioning. I've already told you that plus levels aren't very effective because we've already got so much flat. Getting plus levels equals more flat damage, right? Increased spell damage, we are lacking on increased. So this is that diminishing returns thing. You will find that increased spell damage is actually better than plus levels for like +1 to chaos. So all I want is +1 level to all spell skill gems, and then increased spell damage, because increased is worth more than plus levels at this current point in time. A champion shield, Aegis Aurora. Now, I don't have this exact one. All I want is reduced damage from crits, because it's always on and always effective. And if I could, now, one of these doesn't exist right now, so it's probably dead by the time I mention this to people. If one does exist, it's probably going to be bought up before I can afford it. But physical damage taken is chaos. Basically eliminates 8% damage taken. That's worth 2 endurance charges. It's incredibly powerful. The ones where you're taking it as lightning and chaos, lightning and, fire and stuff, they're okay, but obviously not optimized. You want to know what the best is? This is the best in slot double enchant you can get. Obviously, we don't have one that's perfect. Here's my current one in game. It's good. I'm happy with it. Let's, not even worry about it. You know what I mean? Okay, so back to the POB. Hubris Circlet. I'm struggling to make this right now. It's a centerpiece of the build. Basically, all I want is the +1 power charge, an ES roll that's really, really nice. There's nothing wrong with doing it the other way, but I want the spell suppression here so that I can swap the flask for a silver flask so that I can go to a double power charge ring. Pretty sure I've already explained the difference, but basically that's the swap you would make. It doesn't need to be elevated, by the way. That's just me being a wank. Minus chaos res, we already talked about this. There is so few sources of pen, and minus res is not quite the same thing, but the TLDR is, it's similar enough damage, and we get the spell suppression, but the swap allows me to make for a more optimized double power charge ring. Double power charge ring, even if with nothing else on it, is optimized for 10 mil plus more damage, right? So that's why it's just a better scaling method. Val Regalia, global defense, need I say more? We just want res. We don't really care about plus levels. Yet again, plus levels is not that effective. Spell suppression is going to net you more defenses, bang for buck wise. So it's all about affix efficiency, guys. It's about, if I've got too much flat, I need more increased. I need more damage multipliers, right? I don't need more flat. Getting more flat won't help me out. It is the same thing with defenses. By swapping up your flask and fucking trying to get a plus level here for a little bit more damage, you might be unoptimizing defenses. It is far more efficient to get spell suppression and res here than it is +1 level and then have to try and fix up res elsewhere. Now, here's something I very, very, very much want to talk about. These gloves, okay? Yet again, next league, we won't have these, but obviously, how much spell suppression I can get here and our nerve on hit. Our nerve on hit is 10% more damage. We are always lacking a more damage multiplier, right? Come over here, we click the is the enemy unnerved. Doesn't look like much. I don't know why it looks that bad. Maybe it's already added or whatever. But 10% more spell damage. I thought it'd be bigger than that. I don't know why. Should be, right? Because power charges are like 5 mil. Anyway, I don't know why it looks so small there, but it's still 2 mil more damage. We're going to keep it on the build. Unnerve is absolutely huge, and it activates more damage on some of our other stuff as well, which is kind of weird that it's not adding a bunch. Might be a bug. Anyway, so Unnerve on hits is really, really good. Spell suppression for your affix slots. Now, you actually don't need a +2 to AoE levels. You can actually just use a +1, and you will still achieve 90 all res, but you do need that open suffix. So all you care about is ES. ES is damage. And then we get to Temple Crafted mods. Chill and Shock. Obviously, with the chilled, right? 50% increased damage. What are we lacking? Increase. We have flat. We want increased and more multipliers to really take our damage to the next level. So we also get a tier 1 res roll, which is, think about this, 50% increased damage, man. That is better than any of these, right? So it's just like, oh man, 30% increased. That's a decent chunk of damage, man. Look at that, 30% increased is worth like 3 mil damage. And I'm getting 50 in the glove slot. Kinda huge when you think about it, right? So it's almost worth 2 of these. That's nearly 6 mil damage. We're talking about optimizing, and I get a tier 1 res roll. That eases up on gear pressure, right? So it helps with gear pressure, and it helps with increased damage, which we are lacking. Then on top of that, it gives me 60% increased crit, global, against shocked enemies. And obviously, spell suppression, best in slot, most optimized for defense. So that saves me nearly 2 power charges. Nearly 2 power charges worth of crit. And then it's like, okay, but how do you guarantee chill and shock? Skitterbots. This is like basically the tech that I've seen. I've seen people use it before, but no one uses it on FR CoC, where it's probably the most appropriate ever. With all of our extra reserve, right, what you can do is do Skitterbots tech. Now, I'm actually going to show you this in-game so you guys understand how good this is, but for a very, very low-cost aura, right, like not even 16%, you can use Unbound Ailments with it. Yet again, you don't need a level 5 Enlighten. I'm not going to explain that, you find it out yourself, but TLDR is, Skitterbots is not only chill, right, so it's chilling them and activating these gloves, right? When these gloves are activated, we get 50% increased damage and extra crit. So that's just more shit that we get to skip, and then we're overcapped. Overcapped always helps in all scenarios. I have to turn off my temper shield when we do this, but then I want you to remember, right, that shock itself is already more damage, okay? So whenever I approach an enemy, my Skitterbots have no map mod weaknesses. So yet again, it's that quality of life of no map mod really matters. I don't know why they're slowly taking damage, but the TLDR is, I have a 28% shock. And to fit that in, all I have to do is just put unbound ailments on skitterbots. It's not even the divergent one for like 1 or 2% more, right? So I take this off and it goes down to 18%. But like, look how much this thing changes. Skitterbots, right. Sorry, I gotta put it back. Yeah, so skitterbots is like 15% there. You put this thing on, and then it's what, 18%? Not even 18%. 3% damage for 10%. Overall, 28% more damage and a 19% chill. Absolutely insane value, but it's not even that. It's the fact that now you also get 50% increased on this. This is worth millions of damage in game, right? Millions of damage. With such a small layer, look at that, man. It adds like 12 mil damage just on this setup alone, along with saving me crit, helping me out with gear, and I get tier 1 res rolls with this. It is so ridiculously good. These are basically best in slot. I know someone's going to show like more damage or something like I don't care. It frees up gear pressure at the same time as adding insane amounts of damage and activating spell suppression, which is the most bang for buck defense layer you can get. It's all about optimizing links. Like I said, it's all about affix efficiency. And this is ultra efficient affixes, which yet again are going to net you a better character in the long run, and yet again a better gem setup, which allows us to drop ashes. So now I've not only got hinder, I've got chill on top of that. Enemies are even slower against me, so we got more defenses that aren't even like shown in the POB. So not only do we take less hit damage, our enemies hit us less frequently. You know what I mean? Because we've also got hinder. Obviously from the chaos spells get extra chance to hinder, along with on the actual gem. Hindered enemies take more. I've actually got that clicked, by the way. Have I got hindered enemies? Enemies are hindered? Yeah, they are hindered. Okay, sweet. So yeah, that's been calculated. All right, sweet. TLDR here is, yet again, this cluster jaw setup not only fixes our affix problems, it allows us to fit in better, more optimized auras. Okay? So yet again, Skitterbots tech is another thing that I've seen every other POB miss out on. And in Recombinator League, insane to miss it. Absolutely insane. Alright, yo, let's quickly just go back to this. Where were we? Okay, boots. Not really much to say about boots. Reduced mana cost of skills, mandatory. Cooldown recovery, tailwind. Now, I don't have elevated. I'm working on it. I currently don't have cannot be chilled or frozen, so I'm still weak against chill and freeze. It is kind of annoying. I'll fix it up on standard. But basically, all you want to do is lock your suffixes. I'm sure you guys know how to craft the prefixes. I don't even have a tier 1 ES roll on this thing. Obviously, I'm short on funds to keep trying to craft stuff. I'm spending all my money trying to craft the helm and fix up the ring. But, you know, right now, I've got an unelevated pair as well. So worth mentioning, unelevated, tier 2, so, you know, not the best. I'm working on it. Yet again, only doable this league. Fairly easy crafting method. Basically, it's just trying to move over fractured mods, hit the correct thing. TLDR is, these are, yet again, just super optimized, guys. These, very, very easy. Very, very basic. You're not really going to get past elevated tailwind boots. They're best in slot. They solve a bunch of attack speed and movement speed issues. This bad boy here, okay? Ashes sucks ass, and this Ami is perfect defensively and offensively. So, why defensively, right? Basically, I'll show you another one that I've got right here. The best in slot, like, defensively you can get is basically just an ES roll and ints. I happen to have one somewhere in here. Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah. So this is the one I made, because obviously I didn't think we'd be able to make this. But here's my original one, right? I just want to show you guys the difference in ES here. So it's got an int roll on it. Obviously, that could be tier 1. I'm still working on the suffixes. I can't do it. And then Fennel managed to make this yesterday. And basically, the increased effect of auras is literally the same as these two ES rolls. So I put this thing on. It is like 50 ES difference, right? So defensively, I don't lose that much ES. But what I do gain is insane amounts of damage, right? So we get 45 multi this way. We get a minimum frenzy charge, which kind of makes up a little bit for the attack speed loss, which is fine by me. I don't really need optimized attack speed. If you're over 9.1, you're doing good. We got more damage. The increased effect of auras, yet again, is going to help out with your crit layers. It's going to help out with your damage layers. It's just so much damage. And then the biggest one of all, we lose that ES on the prefix slot, but you get increased damage per power charge. I have 11 power charges coming. even 9 or whatever, right? Or 8, whatever we're on. That is yet again, like, can't even do the math in my head. 66% increased damage with 45 multi. Absolutely insane. Yet again, with a more multiplier. These are the 2 layers you'll keep hearing me repeat. We don't need more flat damage. Mind you, we have flat on this anyways. It's 2 levels, right? So it's giving us flat. It's giving us ES. It's giving us absolutely everything. I'll show you this versus a Ashes of the Star. Ashes of the Star, 62 million, right? Whatever. This gem, this Ami, 77. This is what I was talking about when you realize how efficient certain layers are. This is best in slot, and this exists in-game right now. This is probably one of the only things I would recommend you you mirror off anyone. But again, double power charge ring. I'm working on this. I have a base ready to go. I'm low on money. I'm still trying to get the Ami. Where is it? I have this up for sale, but it's not actually up for sale, right? This is the base, double power charge. I'm working on the suffixes. You know, I've only got like 93x to my name, and I'm still trying to craft the helmet. So the helmet comes first, then the double power charge ring. But the TLDR, guys, is don't need it. We're already optimized. I'm working on it. I'm sure someone might be able to make it. We might get some donos before the end of the league. Don't know, but yet again, everything you guys are seeing in there is a watered down version of what is possible. But this is the only thing I'm trying to sell you with this POB is that this is the best way to scale the damage and the defense. Like, basically, this is how you make the best build of FR CoC. And it's only possible this league, and that's what I'm excited. This ring here, I already made one. They're really, really easy. The big thing about this, right, is when they're fractured. I don't know how to make them fractured in POB. I'll work on that. But basically, when this thing's fractured, it makes it incredibly easy to finish the crafting. So basically, I fractured together the base, like so. These 2 are fractured, and then I just essence spammed for tier 1 decks. All your dex issues gone, and then it's just essence spam till you hit tier 1 res. Very, very easy, like 50 rolls, if that, right? And then just spam Reforge, Prefix, defense until you hit tier 1 ES. Probably took too many Reforges for me to get this. Doesn't matter. The point is that this eases up gear pressure, and it's an incredibly simple crafting method, right? It's incredibly simple. If you're wondering why it's got reduced mana cost right now, I'll go into that in a little bit, right? Actually, no, I'll tell you right now. It is about Replica Conqueror's efficiency. To drop Replica Conqueror's efficiency, you're allowed to put on a much, much better gem, something like this. ES, attack speed, multi. Obviously, like I said, attack speed we're always starved on, even though I've got it on every single one of these jewels. Don't bother doing anything besides pressure points and quick getaway. The only time you're ever going to want the double damage one is it's more damage in POB. It's whatever, man. But you want the movement speed, you want the attack speed. It ends up being more optimized to go quick getaway and pressure points. Don't even worry about the other shit, boys. I'm just telling you right now, optimized tree looks like this, okay? Optimized clusters look like mine. Moving on, right? So that's the 2 rings. We're pretty much done all my gear now. Should go without saying, Aegis Aurora, best in slot. That's how we're building around. Mage Blood, best in slot. Worth mentioning, right? To put enemies with it on, you need to be at crit cap. Some people need the Unnerved. It's not a big deal, but I'm just telling you right now, if you want the Withered and the minus effect here, it's so much damage. That's made even easier with the gloves. I'm not going to go too far in depth in it. You can see it all in the POB. Spell cluster. One thing I currently have, obviously, Arcane Heroism, and I have Burden Projection. It helps a little bit. In the end, Mage Hunter is better. Reason why is it allows me to change up the double corruption on this. Normally, you would get the spell thingo to be like overcapped. I use the Mage Hunter basically to give me that 4% extra spell block. That just helps me cap my crit. A spell block, sorry, whatever. Cap my spell block. And just optimize for damage links. This is all going to be in the POB. Pressure points, I just finished explaining. 1 jewel like this, you don't need many of them. With all these, right, all you're optimizing for is just getting as much as you can. You've got open suffixes on all of these, so you can get these kind of things. Look at the POB, you'll see what I mean. They all add either ES or something along those lines. Not really much to say about that, but basically, normally you would have your Replica Conqueror's efficiency here until you've got life and mana multipliers on both these rings, because then with these 2, when it's at -8, you've only got 1 mana cost on Forbidden Rite, and that allows you to sustain. If you have 3 mana cost and you're using different catalyst here, you will not be able to maintain your mana cost when you swap to a better one. And obviously, dropping this for a Replica Conqueror's efficiency does lower your damage by 7 mil, okay? because obviously you're losing the attack speed, you're losing the multi. This is a better duel in the end, and it's very easy. Just put Catalyst on your ring. Yet again, another reason why it's important to optimize for natural res rolls. Okay, and yet again, we're overcapped on res. Alrighty, real quick before I forget, guys. I just want to quickly advertise this. Pretty much everything else on the build will cost you, less than a mirror fee or anything along those lines, or just a mirror in general. This is probably the only item you'll struggle to create. I do, and I should probably never do this, but I'm going to recommend you actually just mirror this off me. Disclaimer, this is not my item, okay? This is not my item. I have not seen a better one of these in the entire game. There's a Zealotry one that comes close, but not really, right? Because it's the wrong way to do the build. You should have your reserve done in clusters. TLDR, this is best in slot, right? This is actually best in slot, the best one in the game right now for Forbidden Rite CoC. Super meta build. Mirrored off us, right? It only has a 20x fee on it. The fee will be going to Fennel, the original creator, and I will be taking no cut. This is his item. I am advertising it for him because he put in a lot of work and allowing me to use it. I appreciate that, and he's agreed to a very, very low fee of 20x for the community, guys, which is obviously a lot better than, geez, I think 90% of people. Let me know how you guys feel about us, doing like group crafting projects, the community getting involved, donations. Let me, sound off in the comments how you feel about that. For now, guys, if you want this item, message me in game, or we should have it on the trade website. We're just going to work out how to do it. And just let us know, guys. This is going to be the cheapest one around. Alrighty, so we've gone over the gear now. I just very, very quickly want to touch on the gems, at least what I think is optimal. Basically, Arcane Surge is just here to replicate Arcane Heroism, which is here on the build, right? We have Arcane Surge. It doesn't manually add, so we had to put it in right there. It's just a level 1 Arcane Surge. Frostblink, yet again, you can put a Culling Strike here, whatever, I don't really care. That's for other people. You want Anomalous Assassin's Mark, Divergent, right? You can see all this on there. The big deal here is obviously you want the Skitterbots tech. Skitterbots enables the rest of the gearing to work. It's more optimal. You do want, obviously, Cyclone. Your correct links for damage are always going to be like this, right? Divergent Cyclone, I currently don't have it, so there's actually like a bunch more movement speed to be had there. You want a level 6, and then you want +3 on the tree. You've only got one crit node to do it to, so this one. That allows you to reach the breakpoint, 52% cooldown. You want Temper Shield. It allows you to get your spell block. You want Divergent. Anomalous Defiance banner, I don't really have right now because I don't have a level 5 Enlighten. I only need one of these to fit it in, but they're crazy expensive, and I don't want to gamble my luck anymore. 21 Zealotry, yet again, we could change this if you really wanted for this pathetic amount of thingo. I don't care about getting more damage. I have enough. I have legitimate damage. No setup damage, right? Yet again, Purity of Ice, Anomalous, Discipline and Determination. This is basically just for the stun effect. Yet again, it's only like 7%, but it just basically gets you close to cap in 6 rather than in 7 joules. Same thing with the Discipline. It's just a little bit of damage on the POB. You can turn it off if you want. So for anyone that hates the POB warrior thing, you can turn this off, man. I don't mind. Turn it off. You could take away. Well, I mean, obviously we got the frenzy charges, but you can take away the endurance charge if you want, or like being hit recently. You can take that off too, although you probably will be hit. It mostly just fixes the mana or whatever, right? Like untick whatever you think is unfair. I don't care. You can pull this POB apart. If you were to do the same thing to anyone else's POB, you'll find the same issues. You know what I mean? So whatever you don't like about this POB, that's fine. Just basically all I'm asking you to do is pay attention to how we optimized every single affix slot to the most efficient way to do things. Alrighty guys, just quickly going over what we've managed to accomplish with the build. Pretty much absolutely everything. I have got obviously level 100. I didn't actually want to get 100, believe it or not, because I already have a almost level 100 occultist on standard. But anyway, we did absolutely everything. This is my only character of the league. We started off as Bane Occultist. I don't know if I recommend that. It's whatever, but it does the job. Then as soon as I had like 40x to my name, we managed to make Forbidden Rite CoC. Obviously, then it's just throw more money at it, and I'll hopefully, if we get a good video, I'll try and show you how to like do it in stages and stuff like that. But for now, obviously, I just want to see how people receive the video, receive the way we did the POB, our scaling. Obviously, this will not be possible next league. But 40 out of 40, perfect character, level 100, insanely tanky. We literally face tank uber bosses. There is only one weakness that I will mention, or probably two things I should mention. The ginormous difference between when your dying sun is down and when it is up, right? I will fix that eventually on standard. You can sort of fix it up in league. It's still kind of iffy, but you know, it should eventually be permanent. Yet again, on standard for the few people that actually care about that. The other thing I want to mention is we are weak against degens, okay? We're weak against degens, and we are not curse immune. These are pretty much all your weaknesses. Degen is pretty simple though, right? We actually don't take that much degen damage. We step off, your CI, it comes back. Basically not really an issue. We're also, right, we are all ailment immune, including bleed immune. That's on the Pantheon, so I use this one so I don't take extra damage. I'm meant to have a corrupting blood immune, unique jewel. I don't. I'm too tired ass. I'm busy crafting gear. So you'll end up being bleed immune, stun immune, ignite immune, shock immune, chill immune, freeze immune, the whole lot, right? Only weaknesses is really curses, degens. Outside of that, not really much can kill us. Literally not really much. I don't have most of that now, but you will end up with everything immune outside of those. Yet again, I believe the bleed immune is more important than the ignite immune, even in the early game. You will eventually swap to Solar Lunaris. But yeah, pretty much the pros and cons, man. Obviously, the cons are the money, the crafting, all the rest of it. But it's actually just Forbidden Rite is the strongest it will ever be, particularly because of Recombinators this league. If Recombinators go, the damage and everything else will drop significantly. Maybe some of the tech can stay, but basically, you know, by having both your Despair and Power Charge on one ring, this actually saves you and opens up another ring where you could have a double Power Charge. Normally, you wouldn't have enough attack speed or enough crit. All that can be fixed in the way we're doing it, right? But next league, you won't have the spell suppression. You won't have all the power charges. You'll be lacking, you know, a lot of damage, and that will just obviously cut into the build, and you won't be able to stretch it. You won't be able to have the increased aura effects. You won't be able to have so many things that basically it will not be the same build. I reckon saying half my damage would be being fair, and obviously half the defenses. For real, like you lose spell suppression. So for this league, and for now, I would say that this is the greatest ever league to play Forbidden Rite CoC. This is not indicative of my opinion of it in the future. And right now, when this POB is complete, or when all the gear is complete, this will be the current strongest version of Cast on Crit in the game. So this includes over Ice Nova. I mean, obviously Ice Spear gets more single target, but honestly, its defense is just shit. Yet again, I haven't seen a more comfortable, more defensive, more offensive version of anything at the same time. This now also includes, compared to my Lightning CoC character, although done differently. So now Forbidden Rite is currently the #1 Cast on Crit build for well balanced. If you want pure damage, you just go Ice Spear, but it's pretty lame. I don't really enjoy it very much, but either or, better clear, better quality of life, better everything. All right, I just wanted to mention my pros and cons. Pretty much the con, it's Cast on Crit and it's super expensive, as it always is. It's fiddly, it's hard to use. Pros, it is one of the best feeling builds in the game. It is super fun. Anyway, it has been an insane league. I have had so much fun and like trauma crafting this gear and trying to get it all done. I do want to make a special thanks to Yevron, Fennel, Bliss, Ares, Limpo, and obviously Elon as well, right? These guys helped out tremendously with the build, from moral support to ideas, the Fennel crafting the amulet, getting it done today of all days. Everyone for doing big donations, man. He gave us like nearly 1.5 mirrors, nearly 2 mirrors worth of basically just crafting funds. Just for reference, the gear in terms of success stories, we've only spent 1200x. My failures, as in like, you know, just trying to get some of this other stuff, I don't even want to know how much, man, but we've been unlucky the entire league. Like not one of these things is every 50-50 has ended up being 5 crafts. Cannot stress that enough, man, that I've had an awful experience with the combinators and I still love them. You know what I mean? They're still fantastic for me. So I really hope the combinators stay, despite the fact that I have had to spend well and truly over the average every time. But yeah, just super fun league. Thank you to everyone else. And obviously the last people I want to thank is you guys. Basically just, you know, thanks for coming over to the stream. I think we've had really good viewership lately. A lot of people curious about how we're doing it. I am sorry I was late, because obviously everyone has copied some not so optimized versions of the build. I try and go as fast as I can. I got a full-time job, guys. Anyway, I've been rambling. This video is really long. It's going to take me a little bit to edit. This has definitely been rushed out, guys. You know, make no mistake about it. This is not, you know, the best editing I've ever done. Probably not the most interesting video I've ever done. POB is free for anyone to come have a look at. Anyone who wants to have a crack before standard. Hopefully I did a good job, guys. I had a lot of fun with this. Obviously, it was our one project for the league. Peace out. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys all later. Like, subscribe. Catch you later.